25th of November, Rabbi Levitt, Pele Yoetz.
Okay, I wanted to look up in the Hilchas Ribis in the Shulchan Aruch if I could find an answer to your question, but I didn't do so yet. I could have just asked the Rav, but maybe I will.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning, Alan.
Good morning,
Good
Alan.
morning. Good morning, Alan. Good morning, Roy. Good morning, Mayor.
Morning, Roy.
Morning,
Rabbi
Rabbi.
Levitt.
Morning, Rabbi Yechiel.
Morning, Lou. Rabbi. Morning, Phil.
Okay. How's everybody today?
Baruch
Baruch Hashem.
Hashem.
Yom Chamishi. Getting very close to Hanukkah.
Mhm.
Today is Chaf Aleph, 21st. Okay. Oh yeah, just while we're on the subject, just to clarify, if anybody doesn't remember what we do, it's absolutely a regular schedule on Hanukkah. We learn on Hanukkah.
Oh, thank you for clarifying that.
Yes, if you want to go to parties and things like that, you could do that in the,
Not in the morning.
not in the morning. Yes, yeah, yes, right. That's Hanukkah is for parties, but it's also for learning, and the parties. Everything has its place. Okay. Although actually, I do remember when I was in yeshiva, they had the parties at night, and there was no night seder. We went to the party, but that's different because they're learning 3 Sidarim a day. There's no. Okay. Okay, we are up to Gullus, 132. Page 132 in the Pele Yoetz. He has a discussion here. 1 page, 2 page, 3 page, 4 page, 5 pages. Looks like 5 pages. So, okay, so we could call upon Mayor to start off, please.
Where are we again? Let's see.
Page 132. This is in the first volume. First volume, 132.
Oh, Galut.
Galut, yes. Oh, you didn't recognize when I said Gullus. Okay. Okay.
I was taught by Hebrew by Israelis.
Okay.
And actually, I think even in the shul, the older members spoke Ashkenaz, but the younger members spoke Sfard. Okay, anyway, our sages in a vote said, the exile to a place of Torah granted our sages also said, it is incumbent upon a man to live in the city of his fathers. It is as difficult for a man to wander from his home as it is for a bird to stray from its nest. And it is nearly impossible for a man to uproot from his homestead. Nevertheless, if it happens that a man is compelled to move from his home, such as in the situation described by our sages in Baba Metzia, someone for whom it is bad in one city should go to another. Let him choose to be exiled to a city of Torah. He is guaranteed that his children will be Torah scholars, and he too will learn the statuses and laws, not statuses, statutes and laws, and will go on the path of the good. Rabbi Yossi ben Kisma was correct when he said in Avot, even if you give me all the gold and silver in the world, I will not live except in the place of Torah. It is a sufficient reason, even if he learns only one good thing there. Likewise, a person who wants to achieve the crown of Torah and does not find anyone in his city from whom to learn, his father should send him, or he should go on his own to a city of sages and scribes in order to learn Torah. He should not be concerned with the effort, the separation, or the expense. It is as nothing compared to the merit of acquiring the crown of Torah. Even if there is a Torah scholar in the city, sometimes he will be more successful in his Torah studies when he wanders to a different city. Tosfot in Shabbat wrote that it was the practice of the Tanaim and the Amoraim of Eretz Yisrael to go and study Torah in Babylonia in order that they should have peace of mind and no disruptions.
Oh, very interesting.
Yeah.
Tosus and Shabbos. Shkein haya minhagon shel rishonim. Tosus notes that it was.
Sorry, what's the entry halan? What's after Shabbat? What's that entry halan? In the
Entry halan.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I'm looking at the I just happened to be looking at the Hebrew, and the citation is Shabbos Tesamid Beis Dibur Hamaschil Ha Lan. So entry means Dibur Hamaschil.
Oh.
It doesn't mean that, it's referring to that. Dibur Hamaschil means where the following words begin. I just happen to have right here on this desk that I am sitting here, a Gemara Shabbos.
Oh,
And I can look this up right away.
excellent.
Let's see over here. Halon v'halahu. Yeah, this is a famous sugi over here that he's quoting here. The Pele Yoetz. So, just to see what Tosfos says over here, Halon v'halahu. Let me see what that's going on in the Gemara. It's always important when you're learning the Tosfos to see. He has part of the words of the Tosfos are the Dibur Hamaschil. They're not put in by the publisher. It's the words of Tosfos. He's telling you what part of the Gemara it is that he's talking about, and it's important to know before you see the Tosfos to study the section of the Gemara itself. And then the Tosfos takes on a whole new fullness of meaning. התחלת אכילה, שהיית לא פליגי הלהן הלהו. Oh. Oh. Okay. Okay. This is interesting over here. Okay, let's just make this as quick as possible. Right. So Tosfos quotes over here that if you want to know what the Gemara is talking about, the Gemara is not talking about anything that has to do with people going to learn Torah here or there. It's not the subject of the Gemara at all. You want to know what the subject of the Gemara is? The subject of the Gemara over here well, it takes a while to figure what out that is also. So let's leave that. It's not important for now. It's important, but not for now. Now it's important. Just read what Tosfos says. Tosfos says, Rabbi Chanina. Oh, there's a comment here by Rabbi Kiva Eger. Okay, we'll leave that on the side. Rabbi Chanina, Shahaya be'eretz Yisrael, Haya Omer leTalmidav. So Rabbi Chanina, who was from Eretz Yisrael, the words halan halahu refers to that's in regard to us, and that's in regard to them. Them is the ones that live in Eretz Yisrael, or to go to Eretz Yisrael. We'll see in a moment. Rabbi Chanina, Shahaya be'eretz Yisrael. Rabbi Chanina, he was in Eretz Yisrael. Haya Omer leTalmidav. He would say to his students, Shahayu miBavel, that the ones that were from Bavel, right? Their place of their home was in Bavel, but they exiled themselves to a place to go learn by Rabbi Chanina in Eretz Yisrael. Rav Shahaya miBavel, and Rav, who was from Bavel, Omer leTalmidav, he also said to his Talmidav, Shahayu me'Eretz Yisrael. So there was Rabbi Chanina, who was in Eretz Yisrael. He had Talmidim that were from Bavel and left Bavel to go learn by him in Eretz Yisrael. And similarly, Rav, who was in Bavel, he had Talmidim whose homes were in Eretz Yisrael. And they left Eretz Yisrael to go to Bavel to learn by Rav. So there was traffic both ways in the yeshiva world, between Bavel and between Eretz Yisrael. Now this is in the time of the Amoraim. This is a few hundred years after the after Churban Bayis Sheni. In other words, Rav Shahayu beBavel Omer leTalmidav Shahayu beEretz Yisrael lefi shedarchan haya lehitrachek shelo hayu yocholin lasok kol kach bebeisam. The derech of the Talmidim was to exile themselves to a place of Torah. So that not only, we see from Tosfos over here, he's pointing out that not only meant to go from Bavel to go to Eretz Yisrael, but it meant even to go from Eretz Yisrael, to leave Eretz Yisrael and exile oneself to a place of Torah in Bavel.
Wow.
And why did they do that? Because he says, "Shelo hayu yecholim lasot kol kach bebeisam." They weren't able. They weren't able to be osek in Torah in the way that they would have been able to do had they been in the place of their home. Okay, so we had this issue before. Remember somewhere. So this was the case in not everybody, but I don't. It's Tosa says that the students that Rabbi Hanina had who were from Bavel. What does that mean? He also had students from Eretz Israel, of course, as well. But he also had students from Bavel who left their homes in Bavel to come to him in Eretz Israel. And likewise, Rav had the same thing. He had students, of course, that were in Bavel. He quite likely also had students that were from his own town as well. They didn't leave their homes at all. But he also had students from other places in Bavel, and even from Eretz Israel he had as well. So obviously they had to leave their home in order to do so. And Tosa says the reason is because the priority was to be able to excel in Torah, and they weren't able to do that to the fullest extent that they felt that they were capable of achieving by being in their hometown. And what does Rabbi Akiva Eirik have to say about that? Oh, Rabbi Akiva Eiger, he says, we find in a pasuk in Yechezkel, even before all of this. Yechezkel is in the middle of Bayis Rishon. She'amar al Bavel, he said in reference to those in Bavel, Chagure Azor b'masnechem, gird your belts upon where you put your belt, and do what? And get ready for the trip. Get ready to go. Where are you going to go? You're going to go to a place where you can learn Torah. Okay. All right, so now we go to the next paragraph. And a round of applause for page 132. Well done. Yashir koyach. Baruch Hashem. This is incredible. How long ago did we start this sefer?
I don't remember.
We have it marked down. I don't think so. Maybe I do. Started this sefer. Here I have an entry. Lech Lecha. Like it, yeah. Oh, I see. We have here Parshas Kisavo. And yeah. Okay. So we started somewhere towards the end of Sefer Devarim. And now we already got to page 132. Baruch Hashem. Okay, so we ask Lou to continue on page 133.
Oh, you're muted.
You're muted, Lou.
Sorry. Our sages already commented on the verse in the Torah. The Torah is not in heaven. That if it was in heaven, you would have to go after it. And it is not across the ocean. That if it was across the ocean, you would have to go after it. If only fathers and sons were wise and understood the great good of the person whose sons are Torah scholars, they would sell their clothes and send their sons to a place of Torah, even to the far end of the world. It is the exceptional nature of Torah that it is more readily acquired through exile and wandering. Therefore, our sages often say, go out and learn. These things depend upon the nature of people. In these generations, if a person has someone for whom to learn, from whom to learn in his city with peace of mind, it is better that he not leave his city, in order that he should be under his father's supervision. If he is married, he should stay in the same town with his wife.
Huh? See that? There you have it. Very important, right? We can't always conclude that if that's what they did in the times of the Gemara, then that's exactly the way we got to do today. No. Here you have the Pele Yoetz, many, many years later, after the time of the Gemara, that he says that this is what they used to do in the time of the Gemara is not the best thing for us to do. Okay. And we had this question specifically that oh, I think, yeah, we brought it up. He himself brought it up. The Pele Yoetz brought it up in regard to one of the Amoraim that was going on his way to yeshiva. He was leaving his home, and the wife asked him, what should we do in order to support ourselves? And he advised her accordingly. This is what you'll do. Because I'm not going to be here, but I'm giving you advice of how it is that you're gonna make do. And we said over there, oh, so we see that they used to go away to learn. And then we wanted to know, well, what about today? So I said, today we don't do this. If Shach was asked this, and he said, no, we don't do even to go from one city in Eretz Yisrael to another city. Even I think what the question was, just for the week, for the weekdays, and to come home for Shabbos. It doesn't work for us today. And we see this already, that the Pele Yoetz already said this. If he's married, he should stay in the same town with his wife. Okay, next paragraph. We go to Alan.
If a person needs to leave home for either the purpose of Torah study or to earn a living, as is the way of merchants, it is proper that he should have intent and pour out his prayer that the journey be considered like exile, and that he accepts the decree of heaven with love as an atonement for his sins. As the sages in Sanhedrin 37b said, exile atones for sin. It is on condition that he guards himself on the journey from all wrongdoing, so that he will not be as one who cleans himself on one side and soils himself on the other. If by heavenly decree is not afforded the possibility of traveling, he may, as do some people, just move from house to house. It too is considered like exile, and he should have this intent. Behold, our sages, Pesika the Rav Kahana, in Parak 29 said, that which we move on sukkahs from our home to a sukkah is considered like exile, which atones for transgressions. Likewise, when he goes from his house to the synagogue or Beit Medrash on a dreary day, and he bears the freezing temperatures, or if he stays the entire night in the Beit Medrash and is not as comfortable in his sitting and lying down as he was at home, should accept it all with love and happiness, You should have in mind that exile atones. Similarly, on the eve of Pesach, when a person is moving the furniture in his house to properly check for chametz, and the owner of the house finds himself between the ovens, should accept this with love and have in mind that exile atones. In related ways, even the slightest travel or hindrance he is compelled to do, whether for the sake of a mitzvah or any writings that a man should intend, and beseech that it be considered like exile, which atones, just as the sages in Kohelet Rabbah said, what difference does it make to me if it is the entire soul or just part of the soul? So too, what difference does it make if it is a long exile or a short exile? Every part is considered a condition that a person has a proper intent and accepts it with great love.
So 1 second, he's saying over here that if a person leaves his house to go learn Torah or for purposes of parnasa, it's he should regard it like an exile, and which is certainly a gezerah min hashamayim that he's doing this, and like the Gemara says, exile atones for sin. So, in other words, whenever a person has to leave his home, I don't think he's referring to people that go on vacations for 2 weeks. That's called an exile, but maybe, I don't know. Maybe it depends on your hotel accommodations. I'm not sure, but I'm assuming that he's taught. But to somebody that goes to for parnasa, he's also not going. I don't know. Maybe he's talking about somebody who goes for parnasa for a year, or two, or even I don't know, even a month or 2 months. It's a form of exile. It's a form of exile, because exile, the way he explained it in the beginning, is that it's very difficult for a man to stray from his home, and therefore it's regarded as an exile because of the difficulty involved. And so therefore, in all these different cases that he's talking about, on Sukkot, that we go into the Sukkah, on Erev Pesach, even when a person is moving around the furniture in his house, and I would include, he didn't include it over here, people that and the wife says, don't eat any chametz in the house, go out over there to the merpeset, and he's sitting there on the merpeset or in the front of his house, and he's not able to sit in his seat at the table in the kitchen or in the dining room, wherever it is that he generally eats, is also an exile. And all these it doesn't matter. He says, what difference does it make to me if the entire soul or just part of the soul? So too, what's the difference if it's a long exile or a short exile? So there you have it. An exile could be could be a week, could be a day, could be a couple hours.
Isn't that what Yosef did in Egypt? He exiled half of the Egyptians and moved them around. He exiled them from their own homes.
He moved them around, yeah. Okay. So he says that so it's very important that he says if a person realizes this, that this is an exile, it's a little bit of exile, and exile, if accepted as such, it's really soap and shampoo. It atones for sin, and to the extent that he accepts it with love, that he wants to get spiritually clean. So it's a spiritual soap and shampoo. And so all of the difficulties and the inconveniences and the hardships of the exile are all to atone. They can be a great kapor for a person. Okay, that finishes that page. And a round of applause for page 133. We're just applauding all day today over here. It's amazing. Okay, we have even more than a quarter hour time left. We go to Roy to start off page 134. Please.
The statement of our sages that exile did not leave any good character in the Jewish people is well known. However, they also said that exile is befitting the Jewish people. I want to suggest a reconciliation. Exile of the soul of spiritual matters is not good for the Jewish people. Anyone who has the capability of running away from a place where Jews are oppressed in matters that pertain to the soul should do so. For example, there are places where a man is not allowed to marry a woman until someone else who is married dies. Or there are places which conscript the Jews to be soldiers in war, and they are forced to abandon their Judaism. There are other similar harsh decrees and evil customs in several countries. A man who has the capability of relocating and escaping from there and does not will face future judgment. It is more critical to run away from these places than it is to run away from a place where pestilence and plague, not upon us, rage. If the reason people do not leave is because of their money, it too shall be lost. As our sages in Sanhedrin 112b noted, who caused the righteous individuals to live by the wicked ones? Their money, therefore it is destroyed. We understand from this that it is proper to be exiled and to flee from a city whose inhabitants are evil if he is not able to rectify the situation or protest, lest one be swept away by the sins of the city or one is scorched in its fire.
Wow. That's very, very interesting what he says here. Okay. So just to recap very, very quickly, what he had a question over here. He says that on the one hand, Chazal said that the exile did not leave any good character in the Jewish people. So that would indicate that exile is not a good thing. And on the other hand, he says that that exile is befitting the Jewish people. That also, not that he himself says that, but Chazal say this, that the Golus is befitting the Jewish people. That, I guess, must be why the Jewish people for the past few thousands of years have basically been in one Golus or another, because there's actually a great benefit for it. It's really all for the best. But on the other hand, it seems like it goes against what Chazal say, that it leaves the Jewish people without any good character. The exile. So what was the answer to this question that he says? He wants to suggest an answer to this question. He said that exile of the soul in regard to spiritual matters, that's what's not good for the Jewish people. Meaning that if a person is in a place which is a place of exile for the soul, he's in place X, and there is there's big spiritual problems with being in place X. We're not going to say what the name of the place, because that's not gonna get into that. But it's a bad place, that place, and that's where he lives. So there is a reason to not be in that place. That's not a good place for the Jewish people, a place which is a spiritually compromising place. But then he talks about anybody that has the ability to run away from a place where Jews are oppressed. Oh, in matters that pertain to the soul. So that's not a good place for a Jew. That affects his Jewish identity and his ability to live as a And if the reason that he don't run away is because of financial concerns, that's not a good enough reason, because the Gemara in Sanhedrin says that if that's the reason why they stay in such a place, they're because of their money, the money is also gonna go by the wayside. Okay, so that's right. So in other words, that's what we mean to say. We mean to say exile is good if it's to a place of Torah. That's when exile is good. That's when exile is good for the Jewish people. It's got to be a place of Torah. So then the question becomes, well, what about the other types of oppression that the host nation imposes upon the Jewish people? He doesn't address that directly. That's not his point. But it would seem to me that the implication is the main priority is that it has to be a place that exile is. When we say exile is good, it means that exile is a place to a place of Torah, and that befits the Jewish people. So, in other words, even though it's a place where there's various hardships, those hardships are hardships of a material nature, Those are the hardships that he has to endure, and those hardships, for the sake of Torah, is a tremendous purifier. But we don't mean to say an exile, which in that place, away from his home, compromises his ruchnius. That's not a good place. That's the place that Chazal say that it won't leave any good character in the Jewish people to be in that place. So that's the place that the Pele Yoetz is saying to to leave. Not exactly like the Beverly Hillbillies that Jed Clampett was told to move out of wherever it was, he was there in Tennessee and go to Beverly Hills. But that's a different story. He didn't have to. Jed Clampett doesn't have to keep the Torah. Roy, do you know anything about Jed Clampett?
I believe the actor Max Baer is Jewish.
Max
Oh.
Baer.
Really?
Who is that?
What do
That
you
He's
mean? It's the actor that played Jed Clampett.
Wow.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that. I just know Jed Clampett. Okay. Really? He was Jewish.
I believe so.
Wow.
Roy, you're muted.
So, Roy, you didn't answer the question.
Yeah, he's a hillbilly, isn't he? Or wasn't he?
Hillbilly.
Right. Oh, so you do know.
Hilly-billy, as far as I'm concerned, a silly hilly-billy. No, all right, a
He was a
hillbilly.
poor mountaineer that barely kept his family fed.
Ah, yeah. Wasn't he on? Yeah, all right. But where's this coming in now to what we're doing?
Well, he exiled himself to Beverly Hills.
That's nice.
So we wanted to know whether that was a good thing for him. But I didn't realize that he was a nice Jewish boy. So
Did he find oil or something on his property?
the truth of the matter is that there in Beverly Hills today is a very it's got shuls, learning, davening. A lot of mitzvahs are done there.
Yeah.
And quite the opposite as well.
Well, yeah. Okay, that's another discussion. That's another discussion.
Another 5 minutes.
Okay. So let's go. Next paragraph, Roy.
I just read.
Roy just read? Oh, Roy just read. Okay. So we go back to Mayor.
Okay. However, in regards to physical matters, exile is befitting the Jewish people. It is
Oh.
not good. It is not good for a man to live in the cities of Italy or other European cities. Due to the freedoms enjoyed there, no man is able to protest against wrongdoers, and the Jewish judges have no permission to adjudicate civil matters. Everything must be judged by Gentile judges, and no sage has the authority to penalize. As such, Yeshurun, which is a nickname for the Jewish people, had grown fat and disobedient. Every man does that which is straight and crooked in his own eyes, because there is no one who says what he should do or how he should act. The worst sickness is that people are not careful in regards to illicit relations. The non-Jews are sexually permissive. The Gentile women dress immodestly and provocatively, and there are brothels. The Jews who dwell among them assimilate and learn from their actions.
Oh boy. Wow.
If he was talking then, it's not much different now, if not worse.
Mhm.
Well, that is sort of true, because when I grew up in the conservative movement, people outside of the synagogue just acted like everyone else. Inside the synagogue, they had some semblance of Judaism. That might be because of their knowledge, I don't know. But that's how I saw it when I grew up.
Hmm.
It's also interesting that he's talking about the non-Jews. And maybe it was different in his time, but my experience growing up in America is that the Jews, there's no difference between non-Jews and Jews in this
Yep.
respect. Of course, I did not grow up among religious Jews. I grew up among secular Jews.
Hmm.
Mm.
It's a good point.
Yeah, this has been the yeah, I mean and it's yeah. Okay, so right. I'll just say this. Um, I'm very familiar with the Torah community in Los Angeles. I used to go there. I mean, I come from there. I lived there myself, of course, and I used to go back there, but when I once upon a time, uh, Blinetter. So I'm very familiar with to me the community thrives. Does it have problems? Every place has problems. Here too, there's problems. But Baruch Hashem, generally speaking, parents are able to raise their children, and they're frum, committed to Torah, in spite of the fact that not so far away is Hollywood and all of these places where very, very far away from decency and morality. And what I understand is that because the Jewish people have made for themselves communities around the shul, around the yeshiva, around the places that they live, and the schools that they send their children to. And so they've created a cocoon, so to speak. It's not impregnable, but it's a strong sense of identity, and a Jewish person grows up even in a place like that, knowing that he is a Jew, and he's not like other people in the world, and he knows that he lives differently than they do, and he's happy to do so in an overwhelming majority of cases, and he continues to do so. Okay, I see we have no more time, so no one can say anything against what I just got through saying. Okay.
I agree with you 100%, Rabbi. Yasher Kochacha.
Okay. Shkoyach.
Okay, very good.